Hello, my friends. Welcome back to StoryPath English. Today I want to tell you about a man who changed the way we speak. Every day, you use words he invented, but you don't know it. He had no money, no university education. He came from a small town, and yet, he created over 1,700 new English words. His name? William Shakespeare. How did one man change an entire language? Stay with me, and if you enjoy stories like this, please subscribe. It was a spring morning in 1564. In a small town called Stratford upon Avon, a baby was born. His father made gloves. The family was not rich. They lived in a simple house on a quiet street. Young William went to the local grammar school. He learned a little Latin and some old stories from Rome and Greece. But he never went to university. His family did not have that kind of money. When William was 18, he married a woman named Anne Hathaway. She was older than him. Soon they had 3 children. To feed his family, William needed money. So he did something unexpected. He left his wife and children and moved to London. He was only 22 years old. He had no job, no friends in the city, no future plan. Only a dream: to work in the theater. London in the 1580s was dirty, noisy, and dangerous. The streets were full of mud and thieves. But it was also exciting. Theaters were opening everywhere. People were hungry for stories. William started small. He held horses outside the theater for rich people. He ran errands. He helped actors change their costumes. He was nobody. Nobody knew his name. But at night, after the theater closed, he watched the plays. He listened to the words. And he began to write. Not big plays at first, just small poems and short scenes. He showed his writing to other actors. They were surprised. "This boy has a gift," they said. "His words feel alive." In 1592, something terrible happened. A sickness called the plague came to London. It killed thousands of people. Theaters closed. No plays. No money. William had no work for almost 2 years. He was hungry again. He thought about going back to Stratford. He missed his wife and children. But he stayed. He read books. He walked the streets of London, listening to people talk. The rich, the poor, the angry, the happy. He filled notebooks with their words. He waited. He believed that the plague would end. When the theaters reopened, he was ready. He joined a theater company called the Lord Chamberlain's Men. He acted. He wrote. He rewrote. Day and night. He was not the most famous actor, but everyone could see that his words were special. One evening, he was writing a new play. He needed a word for a feeling of being very sad and alone. No English word existed for that exact feeling, so he invented one. He wrote, "He left me in a lonely place." That was the first time the word lonely appeared in English. Then he did it again. He needed a word for a terrible crime. Worse than bad. He wrote, "This is a monstrous act." Again and again he invented. Assassinate, bedroom, gossip, swagger, addiction, cold-blooded, eyeball, fashionable, manager. He didn't follow rules. He just listened to his heart. He once wrote, "I have a faint hope No one had used faint like that before. He turned nouns into verbs. He turned verbs into adjectives. He played with language like a child plays with clay. Shakespeare made English bigger. He gave it new colors. By 1599, William Shakespeare was famous. He was part owner of the Globe Theatre, a huge wooden theatre on the River Thames. Thousands of people came to see his plays. Rich and poor stood together in the same yard. They laughed. They cried. They fell in love with his characters. He wrote Hamlet. He wrote Romeo and Juliet. He wrote Macbeth. He wrote A Midsummer Night's Dream. His plays were not just entertainment. They asked big questions. What is love? What is power? What happens when we feel guilty? What does it mean to be human? The Queen herself, Elizabeth I, watched his plays. Shakespeare became a rich man. He bought the biggest house in his hometown, a beautiful house called New Place. The boy who held horses outside theaters now owned theaters. The poor boy from a small town was now one of the most successful writers in England. But success brought enemies. Another writer named Robert Greene attacked Shakespeare. He called him an upstart crow, a bird that steals beautiful feathers from other birds. He said Shakespeare was just a country boy who copied others. Some people laughed at Shakespeare because he never went to university. He uses too many new words, they said. That's not real English. He's just a showman, not a real poet. And then, in 1613, disaster. The Globe Theatre burned to the ground during a play. A cannon shot for special effect caught the roof on fire. The whole wooden theatre turned into ashes in less than an hour. Shakespeare lost a lot of money. He was tired. His health was failing. He had been writing for more than 20 years. He moved back to Stratford to live with his family. In his last years, Shakespeare lived quietly with his wife and daughters. He signed his will. He wrote a few more plays, The Tempest, a beautiful story about forgiveness and magic. Then, on his 52nd birthday in 1616, he died. Nobody knew that he would become the most famous writer in the world. At his funeral, only a few people came. They buried him in a simple church in his hometown. But something strange happened after he died. Two of his fellow actors collected his plays into a big book called The First Folio. Without that book, half of his plays would have disappeared forever. That book was published 7 years after his death. People began to read Shakespeare everywhere. His words spread like fire across England, then across the world. Today, you use Shakespeare's words every single day. When you say, break the ice, that was Shakespeare. Fair play, Shakespeare. Heart of gold, Shakespeare. In a pickle, yes, him. Vanish into thin air, him. Send him packing, him. He created over 1,700 new English words. That's more than any other person in history. No one else has come close. But his real gift was this. He showed that one person, with no money and no special education, could change the way millions of people speak and think. He showed that words have power. They can make you laugh. They can make you cry. They can live for 400 years. They can cross oceans and centuries. From a small house in Stratford to the greatest theaters in the world, William Shakespeare walked a long road. He walked it with curiosity. He walked it with courage. He walked it with nothing but words. And those words changed everything. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, Please like this video and subscribe to StoryPath English for more stories that help you learn English naturally. Tell me in the comments, what word do you use that Shakespeare invented? And where are you watching from? I love hearing from you. See you in the next story, my friends.